Without taking much time, may I request Professor Aneet Sahasrabudhe, Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi, for his address.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Bhimrai Maitri, Mr. Akram Haq, who followed up with me that I must be here, so I'm here anyway. And the last session, I was very carefully listening to two ministers, one from Bangladesh, Mr. Mohibul Chowdhury, as well as Delhi Education Minister and Deputy Chief Minister Sri Manish Sisodia. Both have been also involved in transformation of education, both in the Delhi state as well as in the state of Bangladesh. I think therefore there is a lot of learning from them as well. I was very closely listening to both the earlier speakers, and whatever has been being done, that is all part of the new education policy as well. That means some of us are probably ahead of the times. And in fact, AICT has also undertaken several reforms over the last 3 years. They are also part of the new education policy. There are certain deviations, but certainly we have been part of that. The NEP 2020 itself is absolutely transformative, game-changing in variety of ways. The important thing is the true implementation of that. The performance is going to be assessed subsequently based on how we are going to really implement it. Policy many times is good, but how do we implement? I think that is most important. And if there are any pitfalls or some problems, we must have some course correction mechanism in place. So the ministry is already seized of the matter. Implementation strategy plan is in place. Maybe in a couple of months, a lot of things will be rolled out. But some of the important things which have happened is since I heard, Manish Sisodia ji talking about mainly school education. So the new education policy is shifting the gear from the previous 10 plus system to a new system of 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, whether it is Anganwadis or KG or nursery, all integrated into the school education itself, and starting at the age of 3, and first 5 years being all joyful learning, whether it is through what we call foundational learning, through experiential learning, whether it is through games, toys, stories, values, all of that being inculcated, including learning of mathematics and science and STEM and STEAM, whatever we call, through stories, rather than a lot of emphasis on reading, writing skills. The next 3 years, of course, reading, writing is important. He has to learn, and a lot of emphasis on learning in mother tongue. Our respective places from where we come from in the respective state and respective homes, that education is expected to be continued in the early years. Thereby, the transition from home to the school is very, very smooth. Subsequently, after the 11 years of age, that means 5 plus 3 years of education in the school, the emphasis is on skill and vocationalization. Every student in those next module of 3 years and the next 4 years, that means those 7 years, will have to undergo at least expertise in at least 2 to 3 skills. And these skills may be all variety. And there is no distinction between arts, commerce, science, etc. It is a holistic, generic education where people can learn, along with philosophy and sociology, physics and mathematics and chemistry, biology, as well as psychology, and maybe some part of the law and the constitution. And skills are type of, things like carpentry, welding, electronics technician, agriculture, gardening. It may be painting, drama, dance, music. Skills can be of any variety. A child, whatever that child is interested, boy or girl, can take any type of they are like electives in a manner in the school education itself, and one can get vocationalized right in the age of 15 to 18 in a thorough manner. And by the time one can come to the higher education, they are already aware of use of hands. The motor skills are very important. Once you come into especially engineering education or medical education, pharmacy education or science education, I think working by hands is very important. Agriculture, of course, very important. And therefore, a student is fully prepared. And it is not that only these kind of skills are going to be there in this skill set, but it could be even electronics, computer science, IT, ICT, even artificial intelligence, machine learning being part of the curriculum between that age of 11 to 18. So such wonderful kids, when they come to college, our job in the higher education sector becomes easier. And the university education, whatever is thought about in this particular policy, is first of all multidisciplinary, and therefore a school of engineering will also have an opportunity to study music or drama or dance, painting, and similarly a student of physics may be able to do something similar, or a person from an arts background, psychology student or a sociology student may also learn ICT. I think that is what is multidisciplinary education, which has all the elements of what is known as university, and universities are the places where everything under the earth has to be studied. And unfortunately, we have moved away from that and we have become monodisciplinary in many cases, like medical education or engineering or law, etc. Now they have to expand. There is no other way out than otherwise, then they will have to either merge with someone else or expand themselves. I think that is the first principle which has happened. The second one is first time ever, probably anywhere in the world, multiple exit entry is formally being announced in the policy. That means if the graduate program is 4 years duration, after 1 year or 2 years, if a student feels that he is not very much interested in this, or because there is some difficulty that he cannot continue education because of family compulsions, because of economic condition being not supporting him to pay the fees. So if he wants to go out, that provision is there to take credit out of whatever he has learned in the form of a certificate or a diploma. And then that academic credit is banked, it is kept in his account. And anytime when he wants to return to the education, he can come back and make use of that earlier credit and add on further credits, and further within a year or two can also get a degree later. I think this is fundamentally a completely transformative and new thing which has happened, and this is going to create many, platforms are to be created. How do we have the definition of credit? How do you transfer? Which university will accept the credit of another university? How one can transform these credits from one university to the other one and transfer and get them? I think there are some challenges and they are being addressed. So the next important thing, because there is already vocationalization started in the school education itself, there is an opportunity for students who graduate becoming automatically employable on one side, and also entrepreneurial, and then able to probably start startups and start the entrepreneurial journey. I think these are two very fundamental things. Secondly, universities have been in a loose manner categorized as research intensive universities, teaching intensive universities, and degree awarding colleges or universities. Therefore, none of the colleges that exist today will remain as affiliation system that exists today, but everyone will become completely autonomous and independent to start even awarding degrees. But they have to have minimum student strength of about 3,000. So either you expand, you either close down, or you merge with others. I think these are the only three formulae one has to adopt. I think this is a very, very significant thing. Then comes the support for research, which is so significant. My previous panelists also spoke about how research and innovation is the foundation for any economy, and therefore the support for research in the form of huge funding, not only in science and technology, but even in humanities and social sciences through what is known as National Research Foundation, which is headed by none other than the principal scientific advisor to the government of India. That is what is envisaged, and this is a big ticket change, because currently the funding being available is in peanuts. Actually, someone from DST, someone from DBT, somewhere from UGC, AICT, we get small amounts, and that is probably not good enough for achieving the goal target that we have set in. And therefore, large-scale funding from National Research Foundation, directly under the leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister's office itself. That means there is a lot of provision for continuing research. Then comes a very important change, that is, how do we leverage technology? Because there is an assumption that in the next 10-15 years, from present gross enrollment ratio in higher education from 27% to reach to 50%, and that is almost double. And plus population also will increase during this period, and therefore from the present, say, 3.25 crores of students that are there in higher education, we have to now envisage how do we present the higher education to 10 crore, that is 100 million students, not a small job. In many countries, population also is not equivalent to that 100 million, that means 10 crore. And therefore, the use of technology is going to be very, very important, use of AI, machine learning, and therefore there is a talk about National Educational Technology Forum being established, NETF. It will continuously guide institutions about how to use technology, train teachers, and this is a very fundamental thing. Then secondly, the conglomeration of variety of institutions have to come together in a manner that technical teaching will become far better in terms of whether it is vocational education, technical education, and teacher education. That integration is also significant and important. Teacher education has been given great emphasis. Therefore, maybe whatever AICT has already started for mandatory teacher certification of 8 modules and for promotions another 5 modules, I think this will become the order of the day. And that is where we can create excellent teachers who will know what are the outcomes to be achieved in the education. And when we come to the single regulatory body, that is what is another area which has been talked about, instead of UGC, AICT, NCT, Pharmacy Council, Council of Architecture, and so on, except legal and medical provisions, all other bodies of regulatory bodies will come under one umbrella, and that is called as HECI, Higher Education Commission of India, under which there are 4 verticals. One of them is regulatory framework, that is what will do regulation job. Second one is one which will set the standards, what are the outcomes to be achieved, what are the requirements of infrastructure, what are the requirements of faculty, laboratory, etc. The second one is this particular, whatever it does, it will be taken forward by the regulatory body in order to test whether it is happening or not. Regulation is also called to be light but tight. Light is mostly it is based on self-disclosures. But however, if someone is not following the norms and giving false information, fake information, lethal action can be taken. That is what is light but tight. Then there is a third agency which is funding, which will do funding for institutions who deserve funding. The fourth vertical is the one where the accreditation takes place. There are presently NAC and NBA. I don't know whether it will be merged or one of them will take over the other one, because these 2 systems of accreditation are different in the form of institutional accreditation by NAC and program accreditation by NBA. So I think something in between the 2 will have to emerge in the process. So I think there are very exciting times, challenging times, and funding for higher education is also to increase. In fact, general education itself, minimum 6% of the GDP, what is envisaged, we are at close to 4% plus, but another couple of percent has to be increased over a period of next 5 to 10 years. If we do that, the kind of initiatives that are there in this, if they are all implemented, probably not just for India, but we will certainly become Atmanirbhar in terms of our own education system being excellent and excelling. But rest of the world, today when we go to Finland or we go to America or we go to Germany to see different facets of education system and try to learn from them, I hope and wish in another 10 years time, we will reinvent Nalandas and Takshilas of the world here in India itself, and people from all over the globe will start coming in, both for our own Indian knowledge systems which exist already, but future high level of technologies which are going to emerge from out of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. Professor Anit Sahasrabudhe, Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education. Sir, you have highlighted the new education policy 2020. In one line, I want to summarize your speech is, it is a gold standard. It is not only gold standard for India, but it is a gold standard for rest of the world. Probably many countries may refer NEP 2020 for improving their education system. You talked about regulation, light and tight, and talked about the funding, research funding, and how to use the technology, and as well as how to make support and also make India as Atmanirbhar Bharat education sector is going to play a very, very important role. So thank you very much. Thanks for your insights and input, and thank you very much for your time.